2,464 Reasons podcast. Nick Fazekas joins us right now. Nick, obviously we're gonna break down Nevada at New Mexico, which we just called Friday night in Albuquerque. We're recording this Sunday. It'll drop Monday, January 6th. But selfishly, I wanted to ask you how you enjoyed your analyst debut. You sit right there next to the bench. You're really in the heart of the matter when you broadcast a basketball game that is unique. It's not like that in soccer or football or baseball or any other sport I've worked.
Yeah, I mean, ton of fun, obviously like you kind of like, you even get the juices flowing like how kind of you used to kind of have when you used to play. Obviously a little bit different where the juices kind of go away a little bit later than after kind of the jump ball. But yeah, I mean, it's a ton of fun. Like you said, I mean, you're right there, Coach Alford's walking back in front of you. So a couple of times you're kind of like having to look behind him, feeling like you're actually on the bench. But yeah, I mean, such a like great debut game, right? To be able to call, a buzzer beater that goes into overtime in the pit with 14-6, like we said multiple times. Yeah, I think it's just it's a great experience, a lot of fun. I hope, of course, everyone kind of enjoyed my expertise that I was able to kind of, spin on it. It was obviously fun to kind of play off of you and, learn things as we kind of kept going. And, I think I butchered Joseph's name a couple times by calling him something different, but like,
That's all right. I called you Nick
just
Davidson once.
But I mean, it's just fun. Like it's a great environment, and you feel like you're more part of the game than if you were sitting in the 10th row.
Yeah. Yeah, I just it was fun to call the game with you, and I could tell your juices were flowing, and I thought it really came through on the broadcast. So what's the next game you're working? Tell everybody the next time you'll be doing
So the
analysis.
next time will be, I believe it's January 22nd at Utah State. So
Utah
I'm
State.
going to go down to Logan, and I'm going to do the Utah State game. That is one place that I was fortunate enough to go in and win, I think maybe once or twice, but that's another special place to like play basketball in for sure.
Yeah. So Len Stevens, of course, is still doing all the home games and any postseason games, as has been his role for the last 17 years. But Nick is now going to join us on some select road games. So that's very exciting. All right, let's get to the hard stuff. A 1-point loss. I just wrote a column for NevadaSportsNet.com that'll also come out tomorrow, Monday. And, all losses are not created equal. I think the losses to Colorado State and to Wyoming are games that Nevada could have won. They were close games, but they weren't necessarily games Nevada should have won. Whereas if you look at the effort against Utah State and most recently at New Mexico, those could have been Nevada wins, and they wouldn't have had to make any excuses about it. I felt like there was a leveling up in their performance, despite it not resulting in wins. Do you agree with that?
I totally agree. I mean, especially the New Mexico game, right? I mean, that's one game where, defensively in that first half, we talked about how they were really active. They were, they were getting or hands on balls, left and right. Their activity was just different. It just felt like it was a totally different level, like you said, from the Colorado State to Wyoming. And yeah, that's a game that you kind of walk out feeling like you should have won and you didn't win. You know what I mean? And maybe the Wyoming game or the Colorado State game, you walk out of like, well, we lost, but we, like you just knew you weren't going to win that game. It just didn't have that level. So yeah, I totally agree with you that we just didn't make a play or didn't make a free throw. There's probably a million things you could probably look at where it was like it wasn't a rotation when it comes down to an overtime and then a 1-point loss to where you can point the finger at a million different plays to where it's like all it takes. And that, that's kind of the beauty of basketball is that, you score 81 points, but literally comes down to one possession or one free throw or one missed block out to where you end up winning or losing the game.
Do you have a memory of a game like that as a player, either in college or professionally?
Oh boy, I got a great memory. So we went on the road. It was one of the games. It was at Pacific, and I'll never forget this. I missed a free throw box out with probably less than a couple seconds left, and they got an offensive rebound and beat us. And it was my free throw line, my side box out. And I'll never forget the bus ride home. I'll never forget the look I got from Coach Fox and Coach Carter as I was walking back to the bench after we lost that game because of my box out. And I just, it's an unforgettable thing to where it was like, that will never happen again to me because I realized the magnitude of it. And of course, it was at the end of the game, and Coach Johnson had put a lot of faith and trust in me to be in there. Was I the biggest, strongest, best rebounder at the time? Probably not. But, I can remember Coach Johnson pulling me aside and saying, "Hey, Nick, this is a learning moment. You have to understand, and you're going to learn from this. We lost the game. It's not the end of the world, but this is a learning moment for you." So, yeah, I mean, there's just things that will happen throughout the duration of your career. And, I'm sure Coach Alford can say through the duration of a season to where there's learning moments 100% game after game.
I actually, just so folks know, I didn't prep you on that. How did you do with free throw box out the rest of the year?
Oh, I did, I was obviously locked in. It was
Yeah,
like, man,
yeah.
I mean, it was just, and I'm like looking at if it was Jermaine Washington or whoever was on top of the other guy, I was like, Jermaine, help me out here. You know what I mean? And like, it's a team effort as well. Long rebounds, sometimes you're not going to get them, but the ones that you get pushed under, that's on you, or the ones that you get manhandled on, that's on you. So trust me, yeah, like there's definitely some things that happened along my entire career as a pro, as a college, player that have resonated with me for the rest of my life to where it's like that stuff is not going to happen again on my watch.
What did you like about the Nevada effort at New Mexico? You mentioned you like ball movement. I thought there was individually more defensive intensity, really to a man, even from guys who we know are elite individual defenders.
I mean, I totally agree. I think that it was just nice to see that. I think if we look back, I think the beginning of the game, we started like 1 for 6 or 2 for 8 or something along those lines. And it was still like a 4 point game, right? And like I kind of said at the broadcast, is like sometimes in basketball, a lot of people hang their hat on defense and they think that defense is just like, defense wins championships. And like, I get it. There's statistically forever not very many poor defensive teams have won championships. But it goes hand in hand with the offense, right? Like there is times where offensively, maybe a guy doesn't touch the ball, or maybe guys having an off night, or maybe a guy just is like missed 3 free throws in a row. And now all of a sudden his defensive intensity and his defensive sort of sharpness is gone. And it was encouraging to see how the Pack basically started off so poorly offensively, but defensively continued to stay locked in and kind of grinded that whole entire first half until we kind of find more of an offensive rhythm kind of into the second half.
All right, so we're looking at the Mountain West now, and Nevada has played Utah State close. They've played New Mexico to overtime on the road. The Pack has yet to face San Diego State. I feel like those are the top three teams in the conference. There are 16 games left in the conference season for the Wolfpack. Um, Obviously, the Aztecs notwithstanding, is it encouraging that Nevada can go toe to toe with two of the three elite teams in the conference? I mean, is that something they can draw on?
Oh, I think 100%. I think that's something that everyone always harps and talks about don't play down to your competition, right? I mean, when San Jose shows up or Fresno shows up and some of these teams with losing records, it's like you got to continue to keep that elite level so that those games can be the games where guys are maybe getting some rest or guys might have a nagging injury. They don't have to pour in 32 or 33 minutes. Maybe the game can kind of get over with, 26, 27 minutes to go so that you can prime up for the big boys. But that is another, that's a whole nother conversation. But like you do have that understanding where like we can go toe to toe with New Mexico in the pit and lose on a buzzer beater and miss a bunch of free throws. Like that should be very encouraging, I would imagine, for this team going forward. But it's just a matter of like keeping that level, sustaining that level, and even trying to push to that next level.
Nevada has 8 days. Friday night was the loss, and they don't play again until the following this coming Saturday at Fresno State. They're going to have some rest, but I know that one of the great things about basketball is that you tend to be able to get back out there if something disappointing happens. Is it good? Is it a good bad? Is it a good kind of pit of your stomach sickness that Nevada's got to kind of sit on this for more than a week?
Yeah, I think it's just, you wonder if Coach Alford give those guys a day off or how many days off to where, of course, you wonder if some of those guys is like losing sleep at night. Are they sitting there thinking about the missed plays that they made or the missed free throws that they had or things like that to where they're like eager to get back to practice for however long coach kind of gave them off. Um, but you kind of hope that some guys don't just kind of say, oh, well, we still got 3 days off or whatever. I get to go home and see mom and dad and I get to go back home and, no big deal. We're just, so like you would hope that that's not the case. So it could kind of go either way. I know personally it would probably eat at me and I'd be like waiting to lace them up on whenever that next day of practice is. I'd probably kind of go home and talk to my dad and explain to him all the things that I thought have gone wrong and the things that need to start going right and the things that I'm going to change. And so you hope that those guys are eager to get those shoes back on and hopefully very eager to get back into that practice facility.
Yeah, I guess you and I have never really explored that. I guess you don't want to have, I'm very certain you don't want to be too well rehearsed and have too great a routine about how to process a tough loss. You want it to be an outlier. But did you have a method, a routine, a mantra that helped you get beyond big disappointments?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I really had like a mantra, like a routine. I think I was just like, like you said, that is the beauty of basketball, like where it's like, usually 3 days later or 4 days later, you have a game. Like you said, right now it's 8 days. Sometimes I sit and think about like the NFL and it's like, I understand it's like a big, long, drawn out process of getting, ready for that next game. But that's like you said, the beauty of basketball is that usually, like, again, also look at it from the positive perspective. It was like Nevada found a pretty good rhythm in the pit at New Mexico. You would like to almost play 2 days later so you can continue to have that same rhythm, all that body, memory and everything like that is like, oh, okay, I know how hard I played. I know how I feel, like everything like that. So it's like, if you sit around for 8 days, is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? I guess we'll find out on Saturday, but hopefully everyone in that locker room is kind of burning and itching to just try to get back and try to get in that practice facility and get that game going on Saturday.
One wild thing about that game that we didn't really talk too much about during the broadcast was Tyler Rollison didn't play. Nevada tightened the rotation to 9, and it was Foster and it was Chuck Bailey the third really rotating in the backcourt. Um, I mean, I love TR. I think he plays really
Yeah,
hard, and he wasn't hurt. I mean, it was just a matchup choice. Uh, Perhaps surprising. It was surprising for me. I don't know how you felt about it, that TR would be kind of the one, the odd man out when the rotation tightens up. But it did seem to work. And I know that Foster maybe can be an offensive liability at times, but he
yeah,
certainly brought a lot of composure. I felt like Nevada handled the pit environment as well as I've ever seen them handle it, maybe even in
yeah.
wins.
Yeah, I mean, well, we kind of talked about that before the game, how we thought Foster was like, was he in it? Was he out of it? Is he still kind of nursing that injury
Right.
mentally? Where is he at? And he played really well for the Pack, against New Mexico the other night. So it was like maybe Steve just, I'm certain that Steve probably trusts Daniel. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? He's had him for how many years now to where he trusts what Daniel is when Daniel is right. Whereas with, TJ, it's like he has had some good games for sure, but he hasn't quite, maybe earned that same sort of level of trust or that level of, I can rely on you when we come down to 14-6 in the
Sure.
pit. You know what I mean? So like that could be the issue, that it was kind of just like Daniel just played to where Steve couldn't take him out of the game, or Steve
Right.
just liked how much he was playing. And it was just like, hey, TJ, maybe he has to have a conversation with him like, hey, I'm going to need to see more out of you going forward to where like I'm forced to put you in the game, or, don't just rely on Daniel to maybe play poorly to where I have to take him out of the game and then I'm kind of like stuck putting you in the game. That's not
Right.
really the idea, right? You want a coach to feel like he trusts you and has to put you in the game.
Yeah, I mean, two notes on that. I mean, Tyler is still only a sophomore. He has played very well though in his career. But yeah, Foster is, he's a fifth year guy, and
Yeah.
Coach Bill Dwayne calls him the sheriff. You don't get coaches calling you the sheriff if you're not ready to meet the moment, especially when it's intense and on the road and everything. Any other kind of general thoughts that you wanted to share about that that New Mexico game. I mean, again, it's a loss. Nevada's 0-4. Nobody's going to say this
Yeah,
is awesome. I
yeah.
mean, it's suboptimal to start with 4 consecutive losses in conference, but I think they got better.
Well, maybe, we've talked about it on the podcast a little bit before, where it's like we've talked about how we thought maybe Nick Davidson was the guy to get him over the top. That kind of like if Nick starts playing well, then maybe everyone kind of follows suit, or maybe if it's Kobe, but maybe we've kind of forgotten about Foster. Maybe we've
Yeah.
forgotten about Daniel. If they're calling him the sheriff and he plays well and he's kind of like that, maybe not, like from a statistical standpoint, or maybe like a taking over game standpoint, he's not like that alpha or he's not like that
Hmm.
dog. But like guys could definitely feed off of seeing maybe him getting an offensive rebound and diving on the floor.
Yeah.
And where like if he's quote unquote the sheriff, then like that kind of has some alphaness to it in the locker room. So maybe he's kind of the missing ingredient or the missing guy that like needs to play and play at a high level for everyone to kind of follow suit behind him.
Yeah, and Coach Alford did point out last year Nevada made their run when Foster was healthy and playing well and contributing. So it's funny, Daniel Foster. It's not often he lights up the box score, but yeah, he did. There
For
was
sure.
something. Um, there was something there. So, well, maybe it's something to grow on. But that'll do it for this episode of 2,464 Reasons with Nick Fazekas. We'll have the Wolfpack Coaches Show on Tuesday, January 7th at Chickies and Pete's at Grand Sierra Resort. That's at 6 o'clock. There is no cover. Come on down and ask Coach Alford questions. You can write them down on a piece of paper. We take questions, and it'll be a good hang. So if you're in Northern Nevada on Tuesday the 7th, come on down. But enjoy your Monday and enjoy the week. Nevada's back in action on Saturday at Fresno State at 4 o'clock. For Nick, I'm Ramey. Peace.